What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Uncaged and I have something kind of special planned for y'all today since I don't usually do these types of videos. It's kind of late because this was supposed to be a Shark Week themed video. I did initially plan to release it during Shark Week last week, but Maxine and Longlegs had my attention and I unfortunately had to put this one on the back burner, but honestly I don't think it matters. We're still in the middle of summer and if you go into the ocean any week of the year, it's going to be Shark Week, so I think we're fine. I think the vibes are still going to be there. Obviously I haven't seen every single shark movie to exist. There are some that aren't on here, such as Under Paris or the Meg movies. I didn't even attempt the Sharknado movies. I'm pretty picky when it comes to shark movies. I typically favor other genres a little bit more, but it's hot as fuck outside, and if you're like me, seeking some indoor summer vibes as of lately, here are 7 of my favorite shark movies. The first movie to kick off our list is 47 Meters Down, aka The Average One. This one came out in 2017. It was directed by Johannes Roberts, and it stars Mandy Moore and Claire Holt. It follows sisters Lisa and Kate, played by Moore and Holt, who seek adventure while vacationing in Mexico and decide to go cage diving. Their dive turns into a nightmare when the cage's cable snaps, plunging them to the ocean floor. With less than an hour of oxygen, they must fend off great white sharks and find a way to the surface. While it's average as a shark movie, the intense and dreadful atmosphere coupled with the sparse appearances by sharks makes for a slightly more tense experience. You're not entirely sure if the real danger is being stuck in the cage or the sharks. It kind of balances out those really nicely. The movie also builds tension with its claustrophobic setting and limited escape options. The underwater cinematography is really stunning in this movie and adds to the intensity of the shark encounters. The film's pacing is very well done and keeps viewers on the edge of their seats. It's also a pretty quick movie too. It's under 90 minutes. While it's deeply average as a shark movie, it's a fun and quick movie that's definitely worth a watch. Coming up next on our list, we have 47 Meters Down 2, Uncaged, aka The Descent one. You'll see why I call it that one in a second. Again, directed by Johannes Roberts, stars Sophie Nellis, Corinne Fox, and Brianna Tew. The plot follows 4 teenage girls seeking an adventurous underwater experience. Their exploration quickly turns into a harrowing fight for survival as they find themselves trapped in a labyrinth of claustrophobic caves, pursued by evolved blind sharks that rely on sound to hunt. Sound familiar? It takes place in caves and the sharks are blind. It's very, very reminiscent of The Descent. Someone gets startled by something and it causes some kind of earthquake underwater and all of these things fall over, leading them to be trapped underground in the caves, which results in a very similar situation to The Descent. It combines a lot of the horror elements with adventure and suspense and a few more twists. The film also takes advantage of its unique setting. The evolved sharks kind of add a new twist to this sequel, even though we've seen it in movies before like The Descent, where people get trapped in the caves and then they're hunted by these blind creatures. I've seen it before, but in a shark movie, I liked it a little bit better since they had to use different techniques and methods to try to avoid the sharks compared to the first movie, which just dealt with regular sharks. We also got a few more characters, which seemed to add a little bit more to the movie for me. Not in the fact that I cared about these characters, it was just more so victims for the sharks. Like, it had just a little bit more oomph to it than the first movie did. A lot more characters that were just a little bit more disposable. It's a shark movie, that's what you're here for. This one is just a little bit more fun for me. It has those additional characters and just feels a little bit more adventurous than the first movie, so I would say that this one's a little bit higher for me. These two specifically fall more into the nature survival horror genre as the movies go on. If you're into those types of movies, the 47 Meters Down movies are probably going to be up your alley. Alright, up next, so soon, we have the classic one. This one, of course, is Jaws, which came out in 1975. Directed by Steven Spielberg, stars Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss. Everybody already knows this. Even so, I will read the plot anyways. The peaceful island community of Amity is thrown into chaos when a giant great white shark begins terrorizing the waters. Local Sheriff Martin Brody teams up with marine biologist Matt Hooper and grizzled shark hunter Quint to hunt down and kill the beast. And we all know how that goes. This is the original and quintessential shark horror film. This shark movie is known for blending nail-biting suspense with compelling characters effectively. The relentless threat of the unseen shark constantly keeps viewers on edge from the very first scene. We see the girl getting attacked from above the water and we can hear it, but we don't really see the shark actually. You have the scene with the boy who gets dragged underneath the water. It tends to focus a lot more on what you don't see, coupled with the trio's really good performances and the masterful storytelling that's done by Steven Spielberg. I can see why it's lived on as one of the best shark movies ever. However, I'm a weird human being, and unless I feel like I'm having fun while I'm watching the victims and my horror movies die, I can't enjoy it. As a whole, Jaws is a 10 out of 10 movie. Great storytelling, great performances, really good shark effects. It's classic. It's just not as fun for me, and I don't like it. It will be here forever if I attempt to explain it. So moving on to its slightly less loved sister, we have Jaws 2, which I call the guilty pleasure. This one was directed by, not even going to attempt that director's name. I loved your movie better though. This one again stars Roy Scheider, Lorraine Gary, and Marie Hamilton. The plot in this one is very similar. The nightmare returns to Amity Island as another great white shark begins preying on the local waters. Chief Brody, still haunted by the events of the first attack, struggles to convince the town of the new threat while trying to protect his family and the community. I don't know how much protecting goes into that, just don't go in the fucking water. But this is a shark movie, baby, so obviously that's not gonna happen. I love Jaws 2 so much. Compared to the original Jaws, and even quite a few of the modern day shark movies, I just love rewatching Jaws 2. Now that Chief Brody's sons, Michael and Sean, are involved with the shark attacks, it adds just a little bit more tension. It's still fun and a lot more action compared to the first movie. We have a ton of teenage characters that go sailing with the two main characters' sons. This just adds a lot more chaos and a lot more action sequences with the shark attacks.
None of man's fantasies of evil can compare with the reality.
Something about this one, because I don't intend to go through that.
And don't even get me started on one of the best characters to ever grace horror history, Jackie. Oh, Jackie. So confused by her character because in the beginning of the movie we had this.
Good, then I'll be at the dock at 8.
You know, maybe the love interest, kind of bad, a little bit arrogant, but you know, will end up being charismatic, lovable, and helpful. I don't know what happened in the second half of the movie because every time I turn around, it was this. And to think I never saw her in any other horror movies ever again, she would have been a shoo-in for Scream. Anyways, this one, in my opinion, just has a lot more fun with the shark terrorizing a tiny community story. One of the more ridiculous and standout moments in this movie for me is whenever this girl is jet skiing and the shark chases her in the boat that she's jet skiing on, and then the shark gets burned and the boat explodes.
In unknown depths of the ocean, how could there have been only one?
So much more action and silliness. Was a little bit cheesier, obviously, compared to the original Jaws. I, again, tend to go for movies that I know are gonna be a little bit more fun whenever I'm watching or rewatching them. Especially if it's a shark movie, you gotta have some fun in there. Not a perfect movie. The shark does a lot of out-of-character things for a normal shark, such as attacking a helicopter.
It looks like it because I've seen one up close.
But again, it's a cheesy shark sequel. You gotta roll with that. This shit can't really happen, but it's fun to watch. Okay, now that we've gone through both of the Jaws movies on this list, let's get cheesier. I'm talking about So Bad It's Good. Shark Night 3D. It came out in 2011. It was directed by David R. Ellis, and it starred Sarah Paxton, Dustin Milligan, and Chris Carmack. The plot for this one is a group of friends' weekend at a lake house turns deadly whenever they discover that the waters are filled with a variety of sharks. These deadly predators have been intentionally released into the lake by two locals who aim to create a twisted reality show. Wow, I didn't know that it spoiled all of that. Holy shit. This movie actually not taking place at a beach, unlike most of these movies. It takes place at a very serene, isolated lake house in the middle of a lake. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Title, Shark Night, movie in 3D. This movie must fucking suck. And I tell you, shh. It does, but in the best way possible. The 3D in this movie was so peak 3D. It came out in 2011. You have so many random things, and I'm not even just talking sharks being thrown at you. Wrenches, guns. The movie has these action sequences where there's these huge explosions just for the fire and debris and whatever else, body parts to come flying at you. I will say, very, very heavily focused on the 3D technology versus the story. What story? Well, since the plot online spoils everything, I don't really think I have much else to spoil you. The motives in this movie are kind of ass. One of them's just a drunk and the other one's a little bit pissed off because Sarah Paxton may have sliced half of his face off with a boat motor. It happens. This movie could have been a lot better had it just maybe reeled in a little bit of the cheesy fun and maybe at least tried to take itself seriously. I sound like a little bit of a hypocrite right now since I primarily look for fun with these movies, but I stopped caring what happened to each shark attack victim. It kind of just all blended into this really cheesy 3D CGI bloody mess, which wasn't even really that bloody since this movie was PG-13. In any case though, the ridiculous attack and action sequences with explosions and flying sharks jumping out of the water. It was so bad, it quite literally was good. Had enough fun with it that I didn't feel like I wasted my time. It may earn a few extra points if you watch it in 3D, however, I'm pretty sure that's extremely difficult to find nowadays. I have the old DVD that comes with the 3D glasses, so I was able to rewatch it in that spirit of things, so maybe I had a little bit of nostalgia, which may make me a little biased to this movie's rating, but it's fun, it's 3D, and it's a shark movie. Fucking watch it. Up next, towards the end of our list, we have The Shallows that came out in 2016, aka The Favorite on my list. It was directed by John Collette-Serra, and it starred Blake Lively, who plays Nancy, a medical student who's on a personal retreat, surfing on a secluded beach that she was trying to find that her mom had told her about whenever she was growing up. Her serene day unfortunately takes a very deadly turn whenever she's attacked by a great white shark and stranded on a small rock just out of reach of the shore. With limited resources and a severe injury, she must use her wits to survive. This one is again mixing typical shark horror with more nature survival horror story elements. This one, out of all of the movies on my list, does it the best. Nancy's fight against the shark, Blake Lively's performance really sells it, the determination and resilience of her character. And you would think that a movie that takes place solely on a rock for most of its runtime would be boring. It never feels boring. She's always attempting to do something, to trying to get help from others on the beach. She's trying to get part of her surfboard, or she's trying to get the camera from the other side of the rock. She's always doing something to try to escape. So the movie never falls victim to ever feeling like it's dragging or being, a boring shark movie, because those are the worst. Another thing that this movie has going for it is its beautiful cinematography. The shots of the waves and the water are always so crisp and blue, very pretty underwater shots. There are tons of them. There are even some nighttime ones that include jellyfish with these really cool effects. Speaking of effects, the shark in this movie looks very good. There's some CGI mixed in there, but for the most part, it looks like they used a mix of CGI and practical, and in the end, it made the shark look probably the best, in my opinion, that a shark has looked in a movie since Jaws. Seems like they really put a lot of effort into the shark's appearance and making it look scary. The movie was paced very nicely at being just under 90 minutes. The performances were solid and the cinematography was gorgeous. This one's my favorite for a reason, so if you by some chance have not seen The Shallows yet, it's definitely worth a watch or rewatch. Alright, we've now made it to the end of my list. Its nickname is a little bit of a strange one, but whenever I give you the context, it'll make a lot more sense. The final movie that I have on my shark movie list, we have Deep Blue Sea, which came out in 1999, aka The Sick in Bed one. It was directed by Rennie Harlan, and it stars Thomas Jane, Saffron Burrows, and Samuel L. Jackson. To give a little bit of context as to why I call this one the Sick in Bed one, during the last month of my junior year in high school, I got the worst stomach flu I have ever gotten, still to this day in my life. It was so fucking bad, and I don't remember anything whenever I was sick with it other than watching Deep Blue Sea. So the plot for this one follows researchers at an isolated underwater facility who have genetically altered sharks to study Alzheimer's disease. The sharks become super intelligent and turn on their creators, leading to a desperate battle for survival as the facility starts to flood. Anywhere I go online whenever I read about this movie, as far as reviews go, they're typically pretty harsh to this movie. A lot of people criticize the effects of the sharks and a little bit of the story and all that. While the sharks' effects are dated, and they are extremely dated, I can understand how that's a negative against the film, but it just adds some kind of charm to the movie for me. These are also some of the more deadly sharks that are on this list, given that they're genetically altered. The movie never really tries to be scary, more so just intense and filled with action. While the movie's scare factor and shark effects are kind of hit or miss for me, I do really enjoy the story for the movie. It was a really good and intriguing idea. There's quite a few people in this movie that died that I didn't expect to, and the movie took a few risks that most shark movies and movies in this genre typically don't. So I gotta give the movie credit there. Not one of my first picks whenever I'm in the mood for a shark movie, but it got me through the fucking stomach flu. How could I not put it on this list? However, there is a little bit of a bonus here at the end of this video. I never intended on including these movies in my list, but these movies are very well made and really good in terms of the shark horror movie movie subgenre. I wouldn't feel right not mentioning these. They're honorable mentions and shark movies that I'll watch if I'm already having a bad day. These two are just depressing as fuck. First, we have Open Water, which came out in 2003, directed by Chris Tennis, and then you have The Reef, which came out in 2010. It was directed by Andrew Truckee. Both of these movies are very well-made movies. Open Water has to do with the somewhat true events of this real-life couple that was left behind on an excursion dive. They were left at sea, and it's unknown whether they actually perished from the elements or if it was sharks. It kind of plays fast and loose with what actually happened in real life. The movie worked with real sharks, so this movie has that edge to it.
Oh god, something's rubbing against my foot. Are you alright?
The movie's very low-key and very low budget. Is very depressing by the end of it. If you've seen it, you already know what I mean. The other movie, The Reef, is very similar in certain aspects compared to Open Water.
Somebody help us! Take me! Take me!
The movie's slightly based on true events. It takes place in open water and it uses primarily real shark footage for the bulk of the movie. You have a few extra characters here compared to Open Water, more fodder for the shark. This movie is just a little bit more hopeful compared to Open Water in the way that it ends. This movie also had really good performances, slightly edging out Open Water by just a little bit, but not by too much. These two shark movies played a lot more serious and stay grounded. All these aren't my favorite movies. They're still very well made movies, and I wouldn't feel right not including them on the list, so here they are as honorable mentions. All right, guys, so that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a second since I've taken a category of horror movies and ranked them or put them in a list for y'all, so give me some preparation for the X trilogy ranking video that I'm doing. That video is gonna be big as fuck. It's gonna take me a second to get it out, but I promise that it will be out before summer's over. Hopefully y'all still care about X, Maxine, and Pearl whenever the video comes out. Fingers crossed. It's a work in progress, okay? My time management is very shitty right now, but we're getting there. If you're new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button down below. It'll really help the channel out a lot, and hit the notifications bell so you know whenever I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for the support. Don't forget to like and share, and I'll see you in the next one.